So the last category in dual deployments would be partially deployed, where we have a main parachute that's open and another container that's open, and maybe a parachute that's out, or maybe just a pilot chute that's out. So let's start with the simplest one first. I've got a main parachute that's open, my reserve container is open, and my reserve pilot chute and bridle are out, but the reserve is still in the canopy in the container. So with just that bridle out there, it's about 3 inches wide, it's usually white, and it's about 13 feet long. So if I see this, I have two options. I can either prevent the reserve from deploying and by pulling it in, or I could cut away the main and continue the reserve deployment. I would prefer, if I like the main, to just stick with the main and prevent the reserve from coming out. Because I don't know exactly what it did out there, and I'm going to have to do an inspection if I'm going to actually try to use it. So in this case, what I would recommend is you take your right or left hand, reach back, grab the bridle, bring it to the front, and hold it. That's all you have to do to prevent that reserve from deploying. Now, I still have to steer my main, so I have the option to use my harness and harness turn, or take my free hand and do a riser turn, turning with the other hand. Whatever I do, don't let go of the bridle. Don't tie it off on anything, and don't try to pull the pilot chute in. Just leave it out there. Hold on to it. You could steer with just rear risers, or you could put two toggles in one hand. That would be another option. I would prefer to just steer with rear risers and hold on to that bridle. Fly your entire landing pattern down to your final approach, and when you're 25 feet off the ground, throw the bridle away, grab the rear riser flare, and PLF. And that way you've prevented that reserve from deploying. And you notice that I threw it away at 25 feet. Once I throw it away, even if it starts coming out at that point, it's not going to affect my, and you're good to go. In this video, you can see that this jumper probably is aware that his reserve pilot chute is out. You can see that the 13-foot long bridle is out. You can see how big and wide it is, and it's white. And you can see that I think the jumper knows this because his brakes are still set. He's going slow. If he had released the brakes, it would probably pull the reserve out. But the fact that the brakes are still set, he hasn't collapsed his slider. Both of those tell me that he probably knows something's going on here, but he's not quite sure what to do. So let's hit play. And as you can see here, the cameraman's kind of giving us a little bit better angle of what he's got going on. And I would say that at this point, if you look back, you can see all you got to do is reach back there with your right or your left hand, grab a hold of that bridle, and hold on to it. If you hold on to that bridle, that reserve is not going to come out, and you are going to prevent that deployment for the rest of the time. And as you can see here, it's pretty obvious right here in the video that you can see the length of that bridle, and then it's right back there. You can reach back there and grab it. It wouldn't be difficult. Let's say I'm holding on to the bridle, and all of a sudden the bagged reserve falls out of the container. No big deal. As long as you're holding that bridle, the locking stows are on the bottom of the bag. So you're holding it by the bridle, the locking stows aren't going to come open. So if it falls out, all you got to do is pick it up by the bridle and then hold the bag. Hold on to it like your life depends on it. Because it does. At this point, I want to make sure that leave the bridle back there, leave the pilot chute alone. Don't try to bring the pilot chute in, just secure the bag. Don't stuff it behind your chest strap. Don't try to put it in your jumpsuit, and don't try to hold it between your legs. Hold on to it with your arms and hold on to it very, very securely. Again, I would make sure I have a good grip, and then I would work the rear risers to make turns and fly my landing pattern. Once I'm 25 feet off the ground on final approach, throw the bag away, grab the rear riser flare, PLF. And that way you have prevented that reserve from deploying. And at 25 feet, it won't do anything for your landing, unless it grabs a bush or something. That's about it. On this video, I actually have a sky hook. So for everyone wondering what to do about the sky hook or what does it change, it does change a few things. So first of all, I'm going to preface it. I'm going to let you know I'm going to pull the reserve. The pilot chute's going to come out, but it's only going to come out about 6 feet, because then it's going to be held by the skyhook red lanyard. So on this video, I'm going to try to unhook the red lanyard to see if I can get it to come off, and I couldn't. So then I went to the next step. I went ahead and knocked the reserve out of the container, and then I'm going to pick it up by the bridle. Now on this video, I'm being a lot more aggressive with it than I would have been if I hadn't been wearing that third parachute. So I'll hit play. You'll see as soon as I pull the reserve, it only comes out about 6 feet. So the sky hook, the red lanyard's going to hold it. So the first thing I did was try to see if I could unhook the red lanyard, and I was unable to. So the next thing I did is I went ahead and knocked the reserve out right here. You'll see it fall down. There it is. And you can see you've got the bridle and the suspension lines. Well, the bridle is holding it right side up. So the suspension lines, the locking stows are on the bottom, and there's no tension on them. So you can see I'm picking it up by the bridle, and I'm moving it around a lot more than I would if I wasn't wearing that tertiary canopy. So be very careful with it, but just lift it up by the bridle and hold on to it. And you can see I've already brought it all the way up here. Now I did try to unhook the sky hook again, and I still couldn't. So at this point, just hold on to it, leave the pilot chute back there, and don't let go of the bag. All right, so for this category, we've got the main parachutes open, and the reserve parachute is hanging down below. Still in the bag, but with all the suspension lines out except for the locking stows. Again, we could cut away and continue the deployment of the reserve, or we could try to prevent it. And one thing you can do is you can scoop up all of the suspension lines and then neatly pick them up and coil them and gently pick the bag up. If you jerk the bag, you're going to pop the locking stows and the reserve's going to come out. But people have actually pulled the bag all the way up by the lines. So neatly bring it up, and if you get the bag in hand, hold on to it. Leave the pilot chute back there. Don't try to mess with that. Just hold the bag and steer your canopy home. Again, 25 feet off the ground, throw it away, grab the rear riser flare, and PLF. So in that situation, you prevented it, even though it was all the lines were out. If the locking stows haven't come open, you could bring it up. Now, what if I'm bringing it up and the locking stows pop off, the bag comes off before I get it to my foot? If it's still somewhere underneath you, it's probably going to try to inflate. So at this point, you want to neatly uncoil all those lines, get them away from you, away from any equipment you have, and get that reserve away from you and get it to open. If it doesn't open right away, grab a rear riser on the other canopy and turn away from it. Make it open as soon as possible. We don't want to drag this thing around until we're on final approach and let it inflate at that point. If it's out of that bag, let's get it open and get it into a configuration as soon as we can. That way we can deal with it, and we have a little bit of time and altitude to deal with it.